Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Hanging High podcast, where we get together at the end of every week and we talk about shit that we all know you don't give a fuck about. My name's Han, and I'm not going to go into my week because it was really boring, other than the fact that I got wisdom tooth surgery. And guess what I did, guys? I made a fucking YouTube video about it.
Yeah.
So if you want to know how that went, youtube.com/Hannah Barbary and watch the video.
Put the video thumbnail there.
You're editing, okay? You do.
I'm just reminding myself.
Okay. Oh yeah. So putting this out there real quick. One, Spotify listeners, I'm sorry, this is going to be a pretty visual podcast episode, and we'll get into it. Yeah, we'll talk about we'll get into why. And two, Boodle is editing this episode, so if it sucks, it's not on me, baby.
I think I'm gonna care about it because this is a Boodle episode.
Yeah. But that's it for me right now.
All right, you go ahead.
Oh, are you talking to me?
Yeah, you go ahead.
You gotta call me my name, bro.
Okay, but Daddy. Don't spoil the name for people who don't know. This might be people's first episode.
That is true. So, what's up, guys? My name's Jakey. You can call me the sexy YouTube mother lover. And
that's not it. It's not it.
I want to change it. Anyways, dude. Okay, so I want to change that, but yes, it is your sexy fucking. God, I fucked up again.
How much have you drank tonight, sir?
Dude, this is a blooper reel already.
Yeah, I love this. No, I'm keeping this.
So, yeah. So what's up, guys? It's your friendly neighborhood sexy mother lover. So,
dude, there it is.
We're gonna talk about something that Boodle has experienced over the past what has it been?
I started this series I would say December.
Oh.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was mid-December, I'm pretty sure. No, actually I got through this it was the beginning of February, actually. Never mind.
Guess what else happened in February? My birthday.
Anyway, yeah, my name's Boodle, aka Big Sexy. Today we're gonna talk about the books I read. It's called the First Law Trilogy. I'm gonna be giving a damn PowerPoint presentation.
I was nervous when he told us about that because I'm like, "Ooh, what about Spotify?" And I was like, "Well, no one listens to us to begin with, so they'll be okay."
No, it's okay. It'll be great. Maybe I can convince people to read these because I was genuinely surprised. Normally, I'm not a book guy.
Yeah, you're a boob guy.
Dude.
Sorry.
I'm more of an ass man. Anyway, all right, I'm gonna stream this.
All right, so we're gonna full screen Boodle.
Full screen, dude. Boom.
Oh yeah, shit! I gotta. Yeah. There you go.
I fucked up already. Anyway, so basically, the First Law Trilogy is comprised of 3 books. It is. I can actually show you.
I feel like I should be taking notes.
Yeah.
So, class, everything we learned today in this PowerPoint will be on the test.
Honestly, I kind of hope this convinces Jacob to give it a try.
So, Boodle, what this is reminding me of is a certain class in high school, and you can blur his name out, but this reminds me of one of his fucking.
Really?
Yeah. Dude, do you remember that dude? I
don't remember. I don't think I had his class.
Oh man. Okay. I'll explain a little bit afterwards, but yeah, let's continue.
Anyway, so First Law Trilogy is comprised of 3 books. Okay. The Blade itself, which is the first one, of course. This one has the red spine, at least the ones that I got. So there's that one. The second book, it's called Before They Are Hanged. This one is really good.
That sounds violent.
Yes, dude, you don't know nothing yet. I'm gonna explain it.
Okay.
Then we have the third book, which is my favorite out of the three. This one was a banger to end on.
That one's thick as fuck.
It is, and for good reason. Last Argument of Kings. It's kind of awesome, and we're gonna get into why. So, what is the first law? Because it is, if you didn't know, it is actually a plot point in the books. Okay. Do you have a question?
The first law is that we have freedom of speech in America.
Yeah. Well, it's technically a law. That is...
What?
Okay. So, on your right, you're going to see some art. This is for people that are, like, in the lore of this universe. I won't go into it because I want people to actually read it. And I kind of forgot who they were. Anyway, so the first law, it is forbidden to touch the other side direct. Forbidden to communicate with the world below. Forbidden to summon demons. And forbidden to open the gates to hell.
Yeah, I can see that why that's a rule. It sounds problematic.
Yeah, no, it's pretty crazy. There's good reasons for why you wouldn't want to do that. There's a second law too, but you didn't know that.
Well, it's called the first, which would imply that there's more than one.
This one is, it is forbidden to eat the flesh of men. Now, it should be obvious as to why, because it's bad.
So you can eat women?
Dude, you went full Mr. Magnet.
Yeah.
So
it is just morally like you shouldn't eat people, but there is another reason why you shouldn't eat people. In this verse, if you basically cannibalize somebody, you gain a sort of demonic power.
Like Chainsaw Man?
Kinda. But when you get this power, you become what's known as an eater, and those are some enemies that the characters face in these books. I won't go too into it because, like I said, I want you guys to actually get interested.
That's a whole other thing.
Yeah. This is a full quote, and I'm going to read it since I got time. Long ago, the world was inhabited by both demons and humans. Then hundreds or thousands of years ago, in the old time, a legendary half-demon, half-human with great magical powers named Eus banished the demons from the world. Magic still exists, which relies on connections to the other side, where the demons live. However, Eus left behind the first law. It is forbidden to touch the other side direct. So, he was a half-demon, but he's like, hey, don't talk to demons, they're bad.
What are they, like, other side direct? What's the direct?
It basically, like, getting chummy with demons, like, hey, what's up, bitch?
Oh, like, speaking directly to them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Or, like, in this universe, people think that you can also open the gates of hell to release demons to Earth again, which, in the lore of this, demons were living alongside humans at one point. At least that's how I interpreted it. Because they don't really go too deep into it, at least in the books I read. It's sort of like a background thing, which I think is something they do really well to not overwhelm you. So yeah, let's get into the characters, which is the main story of this is the characters, not necessarily like the war part of it, which, spoilers, there's a war in this. Multiple, actually. But it's more of a character-based story, which is another reason why I think it's very easy to get into. I thought I was going to get overwhelmed at first, but they did a good job of kind of easing you into the world. Yeah, let's go over the characters. And the first one, and the first character you actually get introduced to in the book, is called Logan Ninefingers, or as his alter ego goes by, the Bloody Nine. That's a picture of him done by an artist. I'll try to find all the links for the stuff and post it in the video description. Basically, this guy's kind of a badass, not gonna lie. He's I would say he's either my favorite or my second favorite character. Here's some bullet points about him.
Okay.
He is from the North. He's a Northman. basically he strives to turn from the path of senseless violence, which basically means he's been killing motherfuckers his whole life. And
comes out the womb, guns blazing.
Yeah, basically, like he's had to fight his whole life. It's implied that he's been through some shit through like his childhood. I mean, he talks about his father dying, and he looks up to his father a lot, at least from what he said about him. Seems like he respects him, but he's just been fighting his whole life, and not all of it was, his fault. Mm-hmm. But eventually, he got to the point where he would just fight because he was good at it, and it just became who he was. Most people, like, outside of where he lives, thinks he's kind of like a dim-witted guy. He's like stereotypical, like ooga booga, like caveman guy. They think of him that way, but he's actually got a lot of like emotional depth, which is interesting because you wouldn't expect that from a guy who's just like a murderer. Mm-hmm. So, I would call it more of like a second identity. They say like berserker state on the wiki, but I would say it's more of like an alter ego or like different personality altogether. He basically becomes what people think he is normally, which is a senseless murderer, bloodlust. Just he doesn't care who you are, you're dead if you're in his way. His two personalities are completely different. When he's Logan, he's more of like a kind of a weird father figure to a lot of characters, which is interesting. Just really a nice guy all around. But it's unfortunate because he has this other side of him that he can't really control. And there's a quote. I have quotes on all the pictures. That's like his little catchphrase. You can never have too many knives, because that's actually what his father told him. Like, hey, you can never have too many because you never know when you'll need that last one,
Okay.
Here's some more art of him. I like this one a lot because this is kind of how I picture him the most in the book.
Like just big and like strong, muscly.
Yeah, just a gruff guy, and his name actually does mean that he has one of his fingers missing.
So
I forgot to mention that. I thought it was obvious, but he does have a finger missing.
Again, to the people who are just not watching and listening, that's just like a silly nickname. Maybe he like has a drawer full of 9 fingers. You know what I mean?
Or he has a necklace of 9 fingers.
Oh, that would be sick.
That'd be crazy. Oh. Yeah, here's some art of him. The one on the right kind of looks more comic booky, which is interesting because they did have a short run of comics of this that kind of retold the story. And I can like show that later. I didn't add it to the PowerPoint, but
it looks like Zorro with long hair and is more stocky.
Dude, yeah. But yeah, that's Logan 9 Fingers. He's like I don't know. He's like very misunderstood to a lot of people, but at the same time, it's not entirely incorrect, which is the sad part. Now this name, I'm going to tell you, this is his nickname. I don't remember what his real name is. I don't even remember if they even say his real name. But this is his name. It's called the Dogman, dude. And this is what someone interpreted him as. He's kind of like a secondary character, so not many people like do fan art of him. So that's like the only picture I could find that was decent looking. But he's what they call a named man. So like the Bloody Nine is Logan's named man, like identity is.
Okay.
And that's what people in the North call them besides their real name. The Dogman basically is one of his like oldest friends. He's known Logan for a long time, alongside his other crew members from the North, which is Red Three Trees, which is a great character. Black Dow, he's kind of a fucker. Thunderhead is kind of like the big guy who's like, hey, I'm a nice guy, but I can kill motherfuckers. But he's actually a nice guy. And then Harding Grim, which is like, he's an interesting guy because he's kind of like mute the whole time, but he'll like say something like every once in a while. But he's like a really good archer, and he's kind of a badass. So like, And then Forley the Weakest, which the name says it all. He's just the weakest out of the group. That's kind of his thing. But Dogman is a skilled archer as well. But he uses a sword when he's like, in close quarters. He can also speak the Union tongue, which is like the language they speak in, the Union, of course. The North has a different language altogether. So it's interesting that he knows both of the languages, because that comes into play later. And,
he's bilingual.
Yeah, he's kind of crazy. And the quote for this, anytime he is like the point of view character in the book and something's happening, he always says this shit. He's like talking about he needs to piss.
Why does he gotta piss all the time?
I don't know. It's just his thing.
Damn.
Yeah, that's the Dogman. He's kind of like a secondary character, so there's not as much to talk about with him. This fucking guy
looks like an asshole.
Dude, he does.
Dude, I don't even need to continue this. You already know. He's kind of an asshole.
He reminds me of. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say he reminds me of the one dude from The Patriot, the movie The Patriot.
I think I know.
Yeah, the British. He's like the British colonel or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And he's like really just pissy all the time. It's the same guy who played Lucius Malfoy. I can't remember.
Okay.
I don't know. Jason Isaacs. His
name is Giselle Dan Luthor. That's his full legal name. And he fucking says that shit all the time. Anyway, he's a noble born. Big shocker. He's kind of had like an easy life, so it's made him kind of like shallow and naive to a lot of the bigger stuff that's happening in the world.
Like real rich people?
He's very self-centered. He's basically, he's a rich kid.
He's Elon Musk.
Dude.
There you go. He doesn't really have a lot to care about, so the stuff he cares about is very like mundane. So like he cares a lot about his clothes, his appearance. But his main interest is like advancement. He wants to be at the top if he can. If he wanted to, he would try to become the king, basically.
Damn.
If he had the chance.
I just read his quote.
Yeah. When he's finally exposed to the real world, though, he becomes kind of gets put in his place, which that's kind of when I started to like the character. I mean, that's the only thing I'll really spoil with the characters is I hated him at first, but he started to grow on me because he started to realize, okay, all the stuff I cared about before doesn't really matter. Once he starts to have his little arc. He's actually a really good swordsman. He's not like the best or anything, but he's pretty decent considering he's kind of a,
I bet he thinks he's the best.
Yeah, basically. His quote kind of tells it all. He wiped his face, and then, his favorite part of the day, gazed at himself in the looking glass.
I mean, there you go. Yeah.
That's basically him. Here's some more art of him.
Right, but actually, on the left, that looks sick.
Yeah, so this is him in the third book. This is after he's had his arc, and he's like actually a good guy. This is on the right. This is kind of how I imagine him, like at the beginning. This is more how I imagine him at the end, and it makes sense because this is a version of the third book.
Feels like Legolas and fucking Boromir mixed together, dude.
Column West. This guy's interesting. So he's actually close friends with Giselle. Or I say friends very lightly. It's more of just like he is a underling to him, but they kind of are friendly with each other, even though West is kind of like, man, this guy's kind of a bitch.
Oh my god, you know what that picture looks like? I'm sorry to cut you off. You know what that picture looks like? The dude from Better Call Saul.
Dude, yeah. It does.
Holy shit.
Kind of the opposite of Giselle. He's a common born guy. So he's kind of like a peasant, sort of. But he's a major in the Union Army. And he's like I said, he's kind of like a secondary character, like the Dogman is, but he's almost got as much screen time or like presence in the book as the main cast. So I decided to add him because he has a lot of stuff that happens to him as well. He's kind of he's a good guy overall. I mean, he's very intelligent. I mean, he does what he can for people that are like, less fortunate and stuff. But the thing with him is he has a very bad temper. And there's a lot of stuff in this book that made me go from liking him to not liking him in a second. And that's kind of like the whole thing with this series. Every single character is kind of an asshole. It is a grim, dark setting, which is another reason why I like it. A lot of the characters are kind of, to most people, they're irredeemable, but they make you like them towards the end of the books. He also gets chronic headaches, which, it could correlate with why he's kind of angry all the time. But he's kind of achieved his rank through, like, actually trying instead of what Jazal did, which was just he had a family name, and he got his rank based on that. Now, this quote is interesting because this is somebody describing West. It was actually a girl that West was interested in. And all it says is, "I owe you a lot, I know. It's just that you're too angry for me. That's all." And that's kind of like his whole character. He tries to do good, but when he gets angry, he kind of snaps on people. I think that's the only other secondary character in this.
Does he use racial slurs?
No, he hit a woman. Now, this is the tiebreaker for my favorite character between Logan and this guy. His name is Sandan Galactor, and he's an inquisitor of the Union itself. This is what he looks like.
Oh.
So, Galactor is actually a crippled man. He was tortured in the Gurkish Empire's palace, which is one of the antagonists of the book. That's one of the warring nations that they're dealing with in the series. He actually used to be in the army, and they actually had a previous war with the Union and the Gurkish, and he was, a high-ranking guy in their army, the Union, I should say. But he was captured and he was tortured for 2 years straight.
Dude.
So they left his body completely like fucked. Every time he wakes up, he's in pain. He like shits himself constantly because when he wakes up and has a pain spasm, he can't control his like muscles and shit. He's like a young man. Relatively speaking, he's 35, but you wouldn't know it looking at him because he always is walking with a cane. He's got a limp. He can't stand for too long. He hates fucking stairs because, he can't really get up them properly. He's an interesting point of view character because despite him being tortured for that long, you'd think that you wouldn't want to be around that sort of thing ever again. But Inquisitors in this universe are basically torturers. They get confessions out of people, even if they're not really, like, even if they didn't really do it. He more cares about getting confessions for the people above him, the people that pay him, and stuff like that. But yeah, basically, he's just a crippled man. He's very, he's self-loathing to the point where he mentions how disgusting he looks to everybody he talks to, pretty much. He uses that to his advantage during interrogations as well, because he'll just be like, "Hey, I've been tortured before too, It ain't gonna end until you give me what I want, So...
Okay.
And his quote is very interesting as well, because this kind of sums up him as a person. every man has his excuses, and the more vile the man becomes, the more touching the story has to be. What is my story now, I wonder? So that's him, and here's more art people have done of him. I kind of like this interpretation on the right. That's kind of how I see him most of the time.
Okay.
When I'm like listening to the books and stuff. Yeah, that's like, I would say this is most people's favorite character. Anytime I look up the series on like Google, people are like, "Man, I love Glockter, even though he kind of sucks." This is one of our other main characters. Her name's Pharaoh Maljen. She is from the Gurkish Empire, actually. She's an escaped slave of them. She's now kind of just like a rebel. She is kind of a badass, kind of like Logan. She's just, doing her thing. The thing with her is she doesn't trust anybody. So even people that like try to be nice to her and get close to her, she just doesn't give a shit. She'll, sometimes kill people even when they're trying to be nice. She does get better later on, but she just is an overall like evil person at the beginning of the book. And she kind of is evil throughout the whole thing, but she gets better. The reason she's like this is because obviously she was a slave of the Gurkish. Mm-hmm. So her entire life, she just wants revenge on them, basically. She hates anything associated with them. This is like the closest, like, I wouldn't say racism, but like she fucking hates these people, and it's for good reason. I'd say. I mean, they kind of did some fucked up shit to her that I won't speak of here. But she's very, very good with a bow. She's actually better than one of Logan's friends, Harding Grim, which is the guy we were talking about earlier. It's kind of like their Legolas a little bit. Who is the best archer Logan's ever known. And at close range, she uses like a scimitar sword. And her quote, which she calls every single white person this in the books, she calls them pinks, and her quote is "fucking pinks" because that is her catchphrase. I swear, she says it so often.
That's really funny.
Yeah, I like this interpretation on the right. This is kind of how I see her in the book. Yeah, she's a badass. Like I said, she's very evil at first, but she gets better. I fucked this up. This is my third favorite character. Baez, the first of the Magi, and this is exactly how I thought he looked. This artist did a great job because this is exactly how I would think he would look. But as you can tell, he's a wizard.
A wizard.
Yeah.
What spells does he do?
So, I actually have something coming up that you'll see what he can do.
Okay.
It's the video I was talking about. But anyway, he's a very old motherfucker. Like, obviously he looks old, but we don't know exactly how old he is. He has to be centuries old at least. But this guy is very jaded. Because is jaded a good word? He's just so old where he doesn't really connect with other human people very well, just because he's like so old. He doesn't have the same concerns as other people would.
He's like, I've been here a while, like you're like worrying about stupid shit, here's the bigger picture type of thing.
Basically. Okay. And that's kind of like his whole thing. He's neither handsome nor majestic. He's kind of stern. One of the characters, Giselle, actually describes him as like, you wouldn't think he was like a wizard because he's got freaking muscles and shit, and he's got burly hands. He doesn't look like somebody that could do like magic and stuff. He uses magic and he calls it the art. Mm-hmm. But when he uses it, it kind of leaves him like exhausted. In one scene in the book, he actually, when he wakes up, he's like visibly lost weight and his eyes are kind of sunken in and everything. And that kind of ties in with, when you use magic in this universe, you're kind of using demonic power, and it kind of
drains your life force.
Yeah,
okay.
It affects you. When we first meet Baez, he's actually living in the north, where Logan is. But he has a library up there where he just sits all day just reading books and shit. Because, I mean, he can live.
He's
as long
living
as he
the life.
Read. He does have apprentices, actually. I'm gonna bear with me on the names because some of them I don't remember how they're pronounced. There's Yoru Sulfur, there's Schnicht, and Malachus Quai. Malachus Quai is actually another secondary character that I didn't really feel the need to put in this because he's kind of in the background most of the time. And this is a quote from him, and it's a very good quote because I feel like it kind of sums up his character very well. One should learn the lessons of history. The mistakes of the past need only be made once, unless there are no other choices.
Oh man, today's politicians should really take a fucking look at that.
I won't say anything, but he becomes kind of a not good person.
No! He's just an old dude reading books. What could go wrong?
So this is kind of how I imagine he looks when you first meet him in the books. This is him using the art. He just bursts people into flames, basically.
Dude, that's crazy.
But yeah, so like we were talking about, there's a war in this book. The plot kind of revolves around the war, but it's not focused on the war as much as you would think. At least not in the beginning half of the books. So I would say first and the second book halfway is more about the characters, and then it becomes more war and character focused towards the end. But basically, I've already talked about them, but we got the Union, which this kind of gives you a good visual on like where the conflicts are. So like, but yeah, this is, the Union. This is in Midderland. This is where Giselle lives, This is where Glockter lives, fucking, what's his face? Colin West, that's where he's living now. Angland is actually where West is from, and it's a territory that's been taken over by the Union. So he's been growing up like under Union rule, and he's been working his way up through the ranks ever since then. The Union is kind of like, think Holy Roman Empire in terms of like aesthetics, with their weaponry and stuff. It's just like a kingdom reminiscent of like Western or Central Europe, kind of like you'll know, like if you look up something like that, you kind of get a vibe of what they look like. The Gurkish, which is in the south, they're more of like a Middle Eastern inspired country. They use scimitars, stuff like that. And the north, I would say, is like, I think of the north as more like Viking-y kind of, or just barbaric.
Okay.
So that kind of vibe. There's not really a main government in the north. That's kind of why. So there's a lot of like petty like rulers with like different points of the map taken up. But yeah, that's kind of like the main, countries that you need to worry about in the book, at least at the beginning. There is other places that you go to. I mean, you can kind of see on the left, there is more places that, are on this map, but you don't really need to know about it at the beginning. But yeah, the only other thing I want to show you guys, I was able to get like snippets of the audiobook I listened to get through this.
Okay.
The audiobook really had me immersed because the guy who did the audiobook, very good voice actor. I love him. His name's Stephen Pacey. But
something about fair use and copyright and blah blah blah. Let's get this started.
Yeah. So these are just clips of like moments from the book that made me get hyped in the car. So
is that weird sexual scene in here? Because you freaked out over that. I wanted to hear that.
That I just got uncomfortable, but I could find it. I guess
that'd be awesome.
But these are moments where I either got hyped or I was just laughing because I was like, "Damn, this is crazy."
Okay.
But here we go.
The Bloody Nine's grip was strong as the roots of mountains, relentless as the tide. "They send such as you to fight me?" He flung the man back against the wall and squeezed, crushing his hands around the grip of his weapon, turning the short blade until it was pointing at his chest. "A fucking insult!" he roared, spitting him on his own sword. "Northerner, eh?" asked a massive shape in the doorway. "Aye. Who's asking?" "The Stone Splitter." He was big, this one, very big, and tough and savage. You could see it on him as he shoved the cupboard away with his huge boot and crunched forward through the broken plates. It meant less than nothing to the Bloody Nine, though. He was made to break such men. Talduru Thunderhead had been bigger. Rud Three Trees had been tougher. Black Dow had been twice as savage. The Bloody Nine had broken them and plenty more besides. The bigger, the tougher, the more savage he was, so much the worse would be his breaking. "Stone shitter!" laughed the Bloody Nine. "So fucking what? Next to die is what you are, and nothing more." "You are aware, I suppose, that I lived through 2 years of torture? 2 years in hell, so I can stand before you now, or lean before you, twisted as an old tree root, a crippled, shambling, wretched mockery of a man, eh, Lord Hoff? Let us be honest with one another. Sometimes I lose control of my own leg, my own eyes, my own face." He snorted. "If you can call it a face. My bowels, too, are rebellious. I often wake up daubed in my own shit. I find myself in constant pain, and the memories of everything that I have lost nag at me endlessly." He felt his left eye twitching. Let it twitch. "So you can see how, despite my constant efforts to be a man of sunny temper, I find that I despise the world and everything in it, and myself most of all. A regrettable state of affairs, for which there is no remedy." The Lord Chamberlain licked his lips uncertainly. "You have my sympathy, but I fail to see the relevance." Glockter came suddenly very close, ignoring a spasm up his leg, pressing Hoff back against the table. "Your sympathy is less than worthless, and the relevance is this. Knowing what I am, what I have endured, what I still endure, can you suppose there is anything in this world I fear? Any act I will shrink from? The most unbearable pain of others is at the worst an irritation to me." Glockter jerked even closer, letting his lips work back from his ruined teeth, letting his face tremble and his eye weep. "Knowing all that, can you possibly think it wise for a man to stand where you stand now and make threats?" Then the door to the bathroom banged against the wall. Baez stood there, entirely naked, dripping with soapy water. His slow gaze took in first Pharaoh, scowling with her knife out, then Longfoot hiding behind the table, Giselle with sword drawn, Quai standing with his mouth open, Nine Fingers sprawled out in a bloody ruin, and finally the 3 black-masked figures, weapons at the ready. There was a pregnant pause. "What the fuck is this?" he roared, striding into the center of the room, water dripping from his beard, down through the grizzled white hairs on his chest, off his slapping fruits. It was a strange sight to see. A naked old man confronting 3 armed practicals of the Inquisition. Ridiculous, and yet no one was laughing. There was something strangely terrifying about him, even without his clothes and running with wet. It was the practicals who shifted backwards, confused, scared even. "You're coming with us," the woman repeated, though a certain doubt seemed to have entered her voice. One of her companions stepped warily toward Baez. Giselle felt a strange sensation in his stomach, a tugging, a sucking, an empty, sick feeling. It was like being back on the bridge in the shadow of the Maker's house, only worse. The wizard's face had turned terribly hard. My patience is at an end. Like a bottle dropped from a great height, the nearest practical burst apart. There was no thunderclap, only a gentle squelching. One moment he was moving toward the old man, sword raised, entirely whole. The next he was 1,000 fragments. Some unknown part of him thudded wetly against the plaster next to Giselle's head. His sword dropped and rattled on the boards. "You were saying?"
And there you go.
Alright.
Dude.
That's honestly really all I got for you guys. I didn't expect to like do it for very long.
No, it's not bad. We're 42 minutes in, so.
So yeah, those are like some moments from some of my favorite characters. Jacob, with the new D&D we're doing, that's kind of who I'm gonna try to base my guy off of.
Speaking of D&D,
Logan?
No, of Baez.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay.
But yeah, I guess, do you guys got any questions?
Sorry, go on, Jacob. You can go first.
So, I guess my question was, so it's like, is there one side that is like inherently, like, are they all like evil?
Think
okay, that's
everybody sucks.
Okay, everybody sucks.
Yeah, that's why I'm thinking, like, Jacob, I think you'd like this because it has the fantasy part, it has like the war part, it has the everybody sucks but cool characters. I love it.
Okay, but does anyone suck more than anyone else?
I would say by the end of it, there is definitely like a man, this guy is just awful. But, there is one character that by the end of it, you'll be like, okay, this guy is like the big bad and the big asshole.
Okay, but you gotta tell me who, because I love you, but while it is interesting, it's not something that I personally would dig.
Okay, don't spoil it because I want Jacob to get into it.
Okay, I'll look into it later. I don't really have any questions about like this in specific. I think you did a really good job like presenting like the basic like kind of foundations of the trilogy and what it's about without really going into anything too specific. But how do you do the audiobooks? Like, I think even with music sometimes and like TV, it eventually just becomes something that's on in the background and that you're not that I'm not really paying attention to it. I feel like if I try to do an audiobook, it'll just be like that where I'm not really focusing because I'm like, oh, I can hear it, let me do other stuff, but I'm not retaining information.
For me, what I did, I limited myself to either doing it while I'm driving or doing it when I'm in the shower. I could not listen to it when I was like doing stuff because I would lose focus sometimes. I will say though, certain parts of this book will make you not want to do anything else and just to focus on it. That's how it was for me. The stone shitter part had me dying in the car because I was like, oh my god, I love this guy. That's what made him my favorite character for a little bit. But yeah.
So I'm just gonna say this. So Boodle, how do you feel like you did for your first like big presentation?
Yeah, I thought I did pretty good. I thought about like rehearsing stuff, but I was like, you know what? I feel like it's better if I just wing it.
Yeah, because then you're overthinking it. You're like, well, let me change this, or like, well, and then like kind of it snowballs, and you just get down this like loop of changing shit, so it's completely unrecognizable and doesn't make sense. Icy.
So whenever me and Boodle were in high school, we had to do a senior project. We were talking a little bit like before the show about this, but so we have in North Carolina, we have a senior project that all Board of Educations have to do, and so basically you choose what your future like is, and you like do a project of what interests you in your life. But so Boodle, what'd you do yours on? And I'll get to mine.
I did mine on YouTube, video editing. Oh, that's what I did mine on.
Dude, he's living his future. But anyways, so mine funny enough, and this is why I was like cracking up. So funny enough, I did my senior project on fucking like police canines, and it just so happens like I did it with like a really close family friend who used to work for like the secretary or not secretary, the I can't remember, it's Homeland Security. I think he did like stuff with Homeland Security, and he was my mentor. And yeah, so he
do a little. Do that.
You gotta make it obvious so he remembers.
Visual edits are good for the.
Sorry.
I thought he was about to suck a wiener. Jesus. I guess for me, the future thing I'm doing, believe it or not, there's not just this trilogy in this universe of books. So they have some standalone books, and then they have another trilogy. So I'm gonna read the standalone books or listen to them. It's done by the same guy who narrated these, so I'm excited.
Okay.
And then, yeah, it's called Best Served Cold. I don't know much about it. I've only gotten like one chapter in because it's a new cast, and it takes a little bit more for me to get into it when I don't know the characters yet. So I'll probably try to get into that here soon because I'm driving. So, but yeah, that's all I'm going to be doing.
I have something I'm doing, I guess. So that by the time this is up, I've already done it. But as of right now, tomorrow I'm going to go see the silly Dungeons and Dragons movie.
Dude.
I don't know a fucking thing about D&D. I don't care enough to learn really in depth or even play the game because I'm not a nerd, okay? I'm cool. See? That's because I have sunglasses on. That proves I'm cool.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited just from, like, the trailer and, like, other little previews and, like, promotional clips. It looks really fucking fun. And even, like, people who I see, like, constantly hating on and shitting on everything that comes out ever are like, yeah, this is pretty good. You know, I really like this. So I have high hopes.
I heard some of the humor is very like if you play D&D, you'll be like, "Ha, that's happened to me before."
I've seen a lot of different people describe it as like this and say like it captured the essence of an actual like D&D campaign.
I think Michael's gonna like it. I want to watch it. I just don't have time.
So the funny, I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that they actually based that fucking movie off of like a campaign that the actors actually did like before the movies or something. So I don't know. Like because I know it started off as like a fan project, right?
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. But yeah.
Jacob is that meme right now with the laughing emoji. And it's like when I purposely spread misinformation on the internet.
No, but I'm pretty sure. I don't know if that's the case, but I want to say that's something I read, but I could be wrong.
Because Michael told me actually. This is going back to, like, other times that D&D has been portrayed in media, but, like, a big one we all fucking know, like, a big one that portrays D&D in the media is Stranger Things.
Yep. And,
like, so, and then I was like, well, wouldn't it be funny if they used Demogorgon since it's actual canon and, like, actual D&D? Like, wouldn't that be fucking hilarious? But like, he said, I'm pretty sure he was like, well, you know, it was interesting the way they portrayed it, but it's just too dramatic. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, it's TV. And he said that that's what he kind of saw, that the main differences between, like, Stranger Things' portrayal of, like, a D&D campaign and this movie is that it's more fun and, like, silly. And it's not always serious and dramatic.
D&D is a lot of time very fun.
Yeah.
And it's kind of silly.
He told me that I'm not allowed just to be an overpowered person who kills everyone. I actually have to play along properly, and I said not happening.
One guy in our D&D campaign recently got fucking kicked across the fucking ground. like anime moment, just shot across the fucking battlefield.
Was it Kyle?
No, it was somebody else.
Well, don't forget, Boodle, you got fucking dicked on. Like
I did, dude. The first couple sessions, I was not doing shit, but dude, this recent one, I was doing some cool shit.
Who's the DM? Ollie?
Noah?
Oh.
Yeah, so fun fact, Ollie's actually doing one that we're gonna get in on after our One Piece D&D.
Is it a different thing every time you guys play, or are you just continuing on the same story? Because it's been going on for a couple weeks now.
It's like a same storyline, same characters. Since it's One Piece, you go between islands, so that's kind of like... Yeah, certain islands were on for longer, so there was one that we were on for like 2 weeks, and then this one we kind of wrapped it up within one session.
Can you guys do a BTS D&D? Is that like a thing you can do?
I mean, I guess.
Not like you as a group, but like, can you like be like the members? Can you do that?
I mean,
Is that a
you
thing?
can make a bard. You can make a bard based off of it. Like, whenever me and Boodle first started playing, I based a bard like half demon, right? And he was based off Jack Black. And I think his name was Dax Black or Dax. I can't remember.
Dax Blacks or Dax Blacks.
Dax Blacks, yeah, Dax Black. And yeah.
Okay. Yeah, my cat says board game. It's like similar vibe, but like it's an actual proper board game rather than, you know, like relying on your imagination and your creativity. And he said he wants to play it with you next summer if that happens.
Oh, dude. I just found, you know what? You don't have a imagination, dude.
No, I don't. I enjoy consuming media, not creating it.
You're a consumer.
I'm a coomer.
Dude.
I enjoy like creating and like writing, but I'm not good at it. Like it's just a way to get like my creativity out of my brain. I'm like not like a professional by any means, but D&D is like fan fiction. If you think about it.
You like fan fiction, don't you?
Listen, I've been on the internet since I was 12 years old. I've seen some shit.
Why? Okay, I can't say anything. The only reason I know about Chris Chan is because I was on the internet way too young.
Yeah, I mean, my earliest memories are ASL ? By creepy old man. So.
Well, that's just not good.
So my journey, I think Boodle had been on like the internet 2 years prior to whenever I started getting on it.
So
yeah,
he showed me the way.
I just remember being in my neighborhood